I said, you know what? I'm gonna put my faith on the people and on my community. And I believe if we work together, like we can get something done. I like to think that my art works in that way.
Hello, print friends, and welcome. This is a bilingual podcast, so if you subscribe to us, you'll be getting episodes in English with me, as well as in Spanish with Reynaldo Gil Zambrano. Together, we speak with people around the globe about their practice and passions in the field of print media and multiples. This episode is brought to you by Legion Paper. Legion Paper is a fine art paper company that represents the best papers in the world. They either stock it, source it, or make it, with brands like Stonehenge, Somerset, Coventry, Reeves, Arches, and more. Legion is the best paper resource for every artist and printmaker's needs. Learn more about the variety of papers Legion stocks at www.legionpaper.com. My guest this week is Javier Moreno Gonzalez, a San Juan-based artist, printmaker, and art educator whose work explores the social and political complexities of Puerto Rican identity with bold graphic clarity. From his early days sketching graffiti to discovering printmaking in college, Javi shares how his artistic voice developed alongside a deepening awareness of colonial histories, community struggles, and the power of collective action. We talk about skeletons, socialism, and what it means to make beautiful images that still pack a political punch. Let's get into it. Hi, Javi. How's it going?
Hi, Miranda. Everything's good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited that we're getting a chance to sit down and chat. I got connected to you when the Hello Print Friend team was in San Juan for SGCI
Hmm.
and got to see your work in person, which is so cool and so amazing because sometimes I only
Thank you.
know, yeah. And, you were kind enough to let us borrow some of your time as well. So you'll be in our upcoming documentary. But I just was so
Yes.
intrigued by what you do. And I'm really happy to get a chance to talk further.
Yeah, of course. That's why we're here.
Absolutely. So, would you introduce yourself and answer the questions who you are, where you are, what you do?
Yes. So my name is Javier Moreno Gonzalez. I'm from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I'm a visual artist. I mostly do printmaking. I paint, and I also do drawings. I draw a lot too. That's kind of like,
Beautiful.
oh, yeah, and I'm also an art educator, right? I'm an art teacher. That's very important.
Doing the important work. And so, you said you're from San Juan. What role did art play in your growing up, your life?
So I always liked art. I don't remember when I got into it because I was a little kid. I do remember when I got to be a teenager, I was going to seventh grade. We have a great art school, which is high school here in San Juan. It's called La Central de Artes Visuales, and I always wanted to go there and study art. I took the test, but I didn't pass it, right? I was going to seventh grade. So at that moment, I remember that moment because I said like, oh well, maybe then this is not my thing, that's what I thought. But I still kept drawing. And then I had a friend in high school who was into graffiti. And so he introduced me to graffiti. And that's another important event that happened, right? Because when I got into graffiti, so I started drawing more. I love graffiti. We had a lot of graffiti here in San Juan. Seems like very old school graffiti, people that are legends in the graffiti scene around the world and stuff like that. But I wasn't really good doing letters. I just kept drawing and painting. And eventually, when I got to go to college, I actually applied for psychology, but they didn't accept me there. But then I also applied to art school as well. And I did pass that test. And that's how I started studying art. And that's how I got into printmaking as well. I didn't knew what printmaking was until I got to college and took like that first class. I had no idea.
No, absolutely. It's not
Yeah.
something that people generally get exposed to before it finds them
I
at
mean,
some
at
point
least
in
in,
their
at
life.
least in my case, in school, I took very little art classes when I was in high school and middle school, and it wasn't that good. That's what actually got me into teaching too, because my art teachers weren't that good. I was like, ah, I
Mm.
think I can do a better job.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did that.
So did you ever get, you said you weren't really into the lettering part of graffiti, but did you participate in
Oh
that? Were
no.
you creating other things
Yeah,
as
no,
well? Yeah.
I am. I am into graffiti, into the letter part. I love it. I love bombing. I love tagging. I'm not really good at it.
Oh, I see.
Even though I try really hard, I wasn't really good at it. I never made a graffiti. I was like, yeah, like not like my colleagues, like they were. I love them. Their graphics were so good, and mines were like, yeah, they never convinced me, So I transcend that, like I just kept drawing, and I'm more of a figurative, I'm not that
Hmm.
abstract, and letters are more like abstract words. So yeah, so I kind of move on little by little until art became something serious for me, and then I said like, okay, let's do this.
And so, what kind of inspiration did you have when you were drawing? Were you looking at comic books or album covers or Rembrandts? What was the,
Oh,
yeah.
yes, I do consume a lot of art. And yes, Rembrandt is an important reference. Also, the Mexican printmakers, all those guys also like I study their work. I imitated them. I used to draw all their woodcuts and stuff just to learn how to get to it, how to get that style. And so yeah, mostly them, in terms of style, like in terms of topics and themes. I always been like aware of. I can say that I'm a very political person, like in my personal life, right? I don't belong to any political party, not the left, not the right. I just think like we should. I believe in my community,
Mm.
like let's work together in community because the other stuff is just too big and everything gets lost. But since I always been aware of all social problems and issues is something that and because they were affecting me as well, many of those social issues were affecting me as well, and they still are. It's hard for me like not to talk about that in my art, right? Because that's what I'm going through.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, something about the island of Puerto Rico, and this is something that, we knew about and then of course explored more as the through the documentary is that it is such a politically charged place. It has such a long colonization and, being governed by outside bodies. And so was that just, really present for you growing up as well? Because it seems like it's in the fabric of day-to-day life there, even from, the prevalence of the Puerto Rican flag everywhere, which I think people maybe not even necessarily understand why. It's because, that was banned for a while. And so it's a statement to show it so prominently like you see it
Right.
now.
Yes, it is, and that's something that changed. Like it was different when I was growing up. Puerto Ricans weren't that proud to be Puerto Ricans, like everyone felt like we were not that good because in Latin America, every other country is independent. Long time ago, and then we never got to that. The United States came, they haven't left yet. They've been in the 1900s, and so we were like in that limbo, like we are a country, in the sense that we have our culture, our own traditions, and we are so different from them. I mean, I believe that in the United States, there are many cultures, there are places that are very different from others. So same here, right? But that we are part, that thing that we are part, but we are not part of, it
Mm.
always left us with a bad taste on our mouth, if you know what I mean. Like it wasn't that cool. It's like like you sort of nobody talks about this like when I was growing up, but it was sort of like we were not good enough. So yes, it's definitely important for me because when I started learning, how the United States got here and the things that they did, then all of a sudden it's like. wait a minute, these guys are not our saviors, you know,
Hmm.
like I used to think, you know, like maybe we don't need them, you know, like what are they doing here? Like it was important in that sense, you know, like I did feel like we were good enough, you know, and that's something like my generation, like I think we kind of broke that stigma, like
Hmm.
being Puerto Rican is something bad or not good enough, you know, like that's why we have Bad Bunny, right? Like Bad Bunny, he put our culture like around the world, and now everybody wants to be like we are, you know.
Hmm.
They want to talk like us, dress like us, and all this stuff, which is fun, you know, because when I was growing up, like that wasn't the case, you know. Like we had to like imitate what other people were doing, or you have to leave, you know, and you wanted to go to college somewhere else in the United
Mm.
States and then come back, you know, because that was better. That was the mindset, you know, like, no, you go out and do your thing and then you come back. So yeah, it is important in my art.
When did you find the your political leanings, your political thoughts start to show up in your artwork, and what did that look like?
Well, just I love like how woodcuts and lino cuts look so much, you know. So when I started like studying Guadalupe, Posada, and Melendez,
Yeah.
Melendez is it? No, yeah,
We can edit it.
Leopoldo Mendez. I apologize,
We can
Melendez.
edit it all in
They,
together, so
yeah,
you're just
yeah,
gonna
yeah, no
sound,
worries.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind. It's okay. So yeah, like I saw how they use printmaking to get the message out there, you know? And I said like, hey, why not? Let's try this. And
Yeah.
it felt good for me, you know, like because there's this thing about making art also that it could be like, you know, you make a drawing and you don't do anything with it once you're done. You
Mm,
know what I mean? Like it's useless in a sense. Like you can look at it, but so what is art? You know, what do we do with it? How can we make it like to have some kind of value, you know? So I said like, yeah, the message. Let's put the message out there. Let's talk about the important stuff. Because I mean back when I started also like social media wasn't like a really big thing either, you know? Like so
mm.
you have to go to the streets and paste your woodcuts and your prints out there, you know, so people could see them and stuff like that. And I always like that's my part of the my graffiti era that I still have, you know, like working on the streets, doing
Yeah.
art on the wall. Like yeah, I think that's awesome, and everyone can see it, and the message gets out there. Either you like it or not, you know, like it's there.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that printmaking and street art have that really interesting tied history, not only of
Right,
being political, of course, but political in the democracy of them, in the fact that with something like street art, you're encountering it maybe when you didn't plan to encounter a political statement that day or even a work of
right,
art that
right.
day.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, when I started in college, we had a few strikes. We did some student strikes, and they were very political. We had like this governor, Luis Fortuño, that he's the one that back in the early 2000s like started dismantling all these good laws that we used to have here that protect the workers and yeah, so things started to get a little bit more messed up and they started to heat up and we had this time where we had like a lot of protests. We were going to the streets and the university we did a strike and that's when I became like mostly aware and at the same time like I saw wow everything like socialism, communism, like and then I
Mm,
have like I used to believe in socialism and communism, for example, and then I have like very good Cuban friends, you know, and when they talked about how hard it was to grow up in Cuba, it's like, oh damn, like it's the same thing as the right, you know, like so where do we put our faith on, you know? And I said, you know what, I'm gonna put my faith on the people and on my community, and I believe if we work together, like we can get something done.
yeah.
And I like to think that my art works in that way, like it we say like we put a granito de arena, like a tiny grain of sand.
That metaphor can be kind of stretched to printmaking itself, right? Is that like, like
Right.
one woodcut on a piece of paper, like you were saying, like if it's just like one drawing, like, well, where does it go? What does it do? You make 50 of them and you put them all
Right.
over your city. And so when you first encountered printmaking in college, were you immediately drawn to it? Did you immediately see this capacity that it had?
Not immediately, but I really had a good professor. My first printmaking professor was Aidel Andin. I do believe she's in the documentary as well.
Yes.
Oh man, she was good in the sense like she was hard. It was a hard class. Like it was basic printmaking. We did lino cut, we did dry point, we did colograph and stuff like that. Like it was like 3 or 4 projects, but she made us draw so much. Like every time we went to class, we had to have like 10 new sketches.
Great.
And I started getting good. I wasn't good at drawing either. My technique wasn't that good. And I started getting good because I was drawing so much because of this class. Then I decided to take another with her as well, like, oh, this is working. Like, and that's when it hit me like, ooh, I can do this. Like it's going well for me, like and I noticed like everyone started to like my lino cuts and how I solved the images and how I did the compositions. And yeah, and that's when it hit me. Because I do like when other people like my artwork. I don't care so much like in the sense like if you agree with what I'm saying or not, but in the sense of the aesthetics, it has to look good, right? Like I do believe that I have a good taste, and yeah, I do like when people like my art. It feels
Absolutely.
good.
Well, I think you make really compelling images. And, one of the things is that they're beautifully done. Like you've got a wonderful carving style and a wonderful carving voice. And then also, they have that poppy quality, not as in like pop art, but in that sense that like the image hits you. And and then that initial sort of aesthetic strike or whatever you want to call it, that keeps the attention of the viewer to start to unpack. And I think that that is such a wonderful tool that printmaking and art in general, but I think, printmaking with its really graphic quality has in relation to conveying messages and maybe conveying uncomfortable messages where you can say like, well, I may not agree with this, but the image is so good, I'm going to keep looking.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I do like that too, when people feel uncomfortable, like if it do something to you, like if you don't react to it at all, like it doesn't make you react in any way, then it's not good. You know what I mean? Like that's not good art in general. Like if a piece doesn't strike me like that, like gets my attention, like then I think it's not good. But yeah, I was able to, although I was really bad in general, like painting, drawing, I was bad at doing printmaking still, like I did it so much, and that the discipline that my professors had, like it really had an impact on me in the sense that, oh my God, this guy, like I remember we had this professor Luis Abraham. I think he's also in the documentary. I don't remember well, but I think I saw him there. So he was the disciple of Lorenzo Mar, which is like one of our biggest artists from the 50s and 60s here. And he told me this story this day that they were doing these silk screens of their Lorenzo March daughters, and they were using oil-based ink, and
Mm-hmm.
the silk screens they were thick, like
Yeah.
they look. If you see them in person, you will not believe that that was made like that because I've never seen anything like it, and it's a lot of work, right? So almost when they're about to finish, like they're going to the last layer, Lawrence Homar suddenly says to Luis Abraham, like, oh, you know what? I don't like how the hairline goes like that. So let's discard it and start over again. Luis Abraham, he was telling us like he was like, "Are you serious? We're gonna throw everything away. We're about to finish." And they did it, and they did it again, and that stuck with me. And I'm kind of like that, you know. I have works that they come out good the first time, and others that I carve them more than once, you know, because
Mm.
if I think like the image is good, if I think like the message is good, the concept is good, why not give it your all, you know? Like if it doesn't come out the first time, let's do it again and again until you feel like, you know, like it's good enough. I do believe that people deserve to look at pretty things.
So I'm always really curious about how an artist decides that an image is good or an image is done. Is it intuitive? Is it intellectual? Is it something in between?
Well, when I was starting, I wasn't sure about anything. I wasn't sure about anything. And that's the thing that I like about sharing. You know, I have my colleagues that I share everything with them in the process. After I'm done, what do you think? I do need that feedback because I'm not always sure. You know, like I guess you with time you build your taste, and if you consume art like I do, you know, I'm always going out there to see exhibitions and looking at books and pictures and stuff like that, right? You build your taste and eventually like you have a good taste, right? Like that's why I believe like people hire in interior designers because they don't have good taste, you know? So you need someone that
Yeah.
do have that good taste to do your home, right? So I think artists also works like that, you know, like at the beginning I wasn't sure. I always had to share it. Now I kind of know, you know, like I trust my instincts more.
Yeah. Yeah, that it reminds me to Chiang Mai, where I live, is a hub for a lot of sort of like digital nomad types, people who work in tech.
Mm,
You know, Thailand has a visa specifically for people doing that. And, you know, it's just, and it's a nice quality of life. It's a beautiful city, but you run into, you know, particularly a lot of foreigners in that field. And I was talking to one of them a few weeks ago, and I just said, "What do you do?" And I said, "You know, I do this and that. You know, and I curate. I'm a a podcaster, and I run a studio, and I do curating." And she said, "So you're a curator? So you just get like paid to have good taste?" And
but
it's like,
yeah, that's
but
basically
yes,
it. But it's not that simple, right? Like,
yeah.
have you tried to have good taste, like, or do you just copy what everyone puts out there, you know, because that's another thing, right? And I try to be cautious, like, although I consume a lot of art, I'm very cautious of social media, you know, because
Mm,
they're gonna put things there that you don't particularly want to see, you know, or be influenced by it. But just by being there and you come, you know, you're scrolling and you just look at it, and then sometimes you don't know, but it's there in your subconscious, right? So I do take my breaks from time to time and don't look at anything,
mm.
and which is another practice, right? You consume a lot of art, then you don't look at anything for a while, and then you start making your own, right? And I believe like I kind of like had a hard time. Like I wanted to have my own style, and I had a hard time figuring out how do I do that? How do I get to
Mm.
that, right? So that's how I learned, like talking to other artists, talking to my professors in college, looking at them, how they work, how do they get to that? How did they got to their own style? You know, it doesn't. People think like you just come up with it, you know, but
Mm.
no, by accident. But most of the time you don't. You know, you build on it little by little.
Do you feel like you're at a point in your journey as an artist where you have a defined voice that you feel really comfortable working within and speaks to you?
I do. I mean, I don't think that my style is like the most original stuff. You know, I'm a figurative artist. But I do feel comfortable with how I paint, how I draw. I do believe it's mine, although it might look
Mm,
like similar to other stuff out there. I don't mind if they compare me like to other artists either. You know, it's okay. Like eventually, we all live in the same planet. You know, like we might come to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
So that's okay. That doesn't bother me at all. But yeah, I do feel comfortable with how my images are coming out, of course.
And I think, having, yeah, I'm not sure that I even like really believe in the idea of like a truly original style, just because
Yeah,
how
I hate
could,
those kind of conversations. It's like,
yeah.
who knows, man? Like,
And I think if you have a practice that maybe might remind someone of something else, or remind someone of a tradition, that's just another tool in the toolbox, right? That is communicating something about what you want to say. And I think, so for instance, like the use of like the calavera or the skeleton, like when you see
right.
it, even though it's doing something and being used in a way you haven't seen before, I feel like people are going to see it. Maybe they're going to be reminded of Posada. But of course, Posada was a political artist. And so like you're already saying like, this is a tool for you to understand my work. I
Yeah,
think
of
it's all
course.
part
Yeah.
of communication.
But yeah, you're right about that. I mean, like they used to compare me a lot with Carlos Raquel Rivera, which is another printmaker from here, from Puerto Rico. I don't mind. I love his work. I'm a huge fan. So it's like, yeah, that's like a compliment for me. Oh, it looks a lot like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have this issue. Like, I mean, I do have met friends and colleagues that are artists as well. They kind of struggle with that a bit,
Mm.
where they like, no, because they're comparing me to this guy, but no, it's something different, blah 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with artists, both on the podcast and just in
Right,
life,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that comes
You
up a
guys have
lot.
a long list of episodes.
Yes, I think you can hear 400 hours of Reynaldo and I talking to artists if you wanted to at this point. If you
Right.
wanted to spend your life like that, you could. But it is, it's a recurring theme, and and I think sometimes it's a bit related to sort of this like myth of the artistic genius as well, is that there are some people who are just like they're just born with it, they're given to it God or luck or genetics, that they just come fully formed into the world with this
Right.
ability
This
to do
awesome
something kind of
idea.
magical. Yeah. But it's like that's not true. Like even Michelangelo was worried about being compared to someone else.
Most of the time, like you have to work, you have to put in the work.
In terms of, how art and politics intersect, is through your own work, even sort of through more generally, like what do you sort of see that relationship, like the role of artists as it intersects with broader politics, and maybe even particularly now when we're in like such charged and troubling political times?
Yes, I mean it could be political in the sense, like, it could be like a slogan. You're saying something, you're putting literally like a message, or because I do believe like everything is political. Just making art in this time, just grabbing a pen and started drawing, like with everything that's happening around the world, like it's crazy. That's a political act, I believe. I also believe like art making is one of those things that makes us human,
Mm.
that separates us from all the other stuff and species that we know, right? So yeah, I mean, for me, everything is political because politics is just how we govern ourselves and how we move to society and how we decide what's going to happen in our society. So what I think every kind of art could be political. It could be very obvious. Some are not that obvious, right? But I do believe every art is political.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there's something really to the agency that one gets through the act of making that is inherently hopeful and inherently powerful. And so it's like how far down this rabbit hole do you want to go today, Miranda? But like I'm just sort of thinking about like, I think there are definitely forces in the world and ideologies in the world that would prefer that everyone was just a tired worker making money for someone farther up the food chain.
Right. I have wished that for myself. I'm like, hey, why can't I just be like simple and just go to work and go shopping?
Why can't I just be a
Because
good
it's
little
hard.
capitalist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
make and
Because if you're
consume.
like woke or you have social awareness and you understand politics and how things work, you suffer.
Yeah.
You suffer because you're like, damn, how is this happening? It's kind of absurd lately.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
been getting on some levels that it's scary, scary.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think art as a force to continue to inspire and let people not have
Totally,
empathy
totally.
empathy fatigue is so real, particularly when we're just inundated with the facts of
Right.
what's happening in the world. And art is such a powerful force to continue to remind people of the real human emotion and experience that is still happening. And
Yes.
just because we're getting burnt out on seeing it or feeling it doesn't actually change the facts. And art is so important for that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely believe that too. Like if you do something, you make an artwork, and either the person agrees with the message or not, like you provoke something in them, and something's gonna happen. It's gonna make him think or not, or and it definitely unites us in that sense, right? I do believe art making and art to consume art, if you're just a fan and you love art and go look at it and stuff, I do believe that it makes us more human in that
Mm-hmm.
sense too,
Mm-hmm.
and it unites us as well.
Absolutely. And it's something that I think that amazing power of art, being a visual language can really transcend some of the ways in which words make things more complicated
Yeah,
sometimes.
definitely, definitely.
Art can
I
go
have
right to
made
the heart.
friends. I have a friend like I mean, we only talk through Instagram, right? And I stumble with him with his account on Instagram. I started following him. His work like very similar to mine,
Hmm.
right? And his style too. And I started to write, "Oh, I love your work." And then he started following me. "Oh, I love your work too." And it's amazing, that happens through art. We're totally different part of the world, but we almost kind of living under the same circumstances
Yeah.
politically, like it blows my mind how that happened, and we're making sort of the same stuff in our printmaking,
So one of your images that really struck me when I got to see it in the vendor fair. Yeah, one of the images I got to see at the vendor
Yeah.
fair that I really loved. And then I saw later on a mural around town was
Mm,
this beautiful image of this skeleton with horns sitting at the bottom of the ocean, and the top of the skull with the horns, it looks like two palm trees, and the top of the skull sitting out of the water, so it's like an island. um I mean, it's just kind of talking about, like what makes an image good. It has that exact quality to be able to kind of keep giving information the more you're looking at it and the different layers. But
right.
what's the significance of that for you?
It's actually very simple. I came up with that image here on the island. I used to live in Florida. I was in Orlando by the time I made the print. It's a lino cut. I was back 2018 or 2019, something like that. And I'm looking at all the things that are happening here, and like all you see on the news is that we have more Airbnbs, more
Mm.
people are being displaced because of the gentrification. We have less jobs. We're still struggling because of the hurricane. They haven't fixed the roads or the
Mhm.
electricity system. Blah 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 blah. And I can see it, but we every day we have more tourists, more things, and yet we still have all these issues. So for me, just came like very simple. It's like the tourist comes here, they just see like the tip of the iceberg, So the image is that, right? Like when you look at if you just look what is above the ocean, you'll see like this
Right.
image of an island with the two palm trees, very simple, very classic. But then when you look beneath, like you have a whole skeleton, of a
Mm.
dying island, because we were dying. We still are, but
Yeah.
I guess we got used to it. Yeah, because all of a sudden, like, it's not a trending topic no more.
I think of the way people, particularly people of means and privilege, just consume places. I think of it as, treating everywhere like Disneyland. Like this was, oh, this was waiting for me to come consume it because it's beautiful and, I'm going to get my Instagram pic on the beach and I'm going to go home. But it's just the ability, I think, again, for art and political art, whether like film or image, to get those actual kind of punchy graphics like that. It's going to do, I think, so much more than a long conversation with a lot of people about
Right, right.
all of it.
When you look at the work of Katie Colwitz,
Yes. Oh, I
she
love
did a
her.
lot of work like during the war, and although like not all the images, some of the images, some of the woodcuts are just like moms with their kids,
Yeah.
but through that line, you see like the suffering, you can almost feel it, that's always awesome for me. I'm another big fan of her. I
Mm.
really like her.
I feel like she's maybe the most, why do you say, like unsung hero, or like in terms of just,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like she's like her work, like her draftsmanship, the way she crafted images, it's incredible. And I feel like if you're not into print, you don't really know her.
Really know her, yeah.
She does figurative work like beyond what I think a lot of more famous artists do, honestly.
Yeah, and she had the ability, like with a hand, like how she draw those hands, like, and you can feel it, like it's wow.
Yeah.
This person went through a lot, like I
Hmm.
don't even know how to explain it. Like how do you put that in words? It's hard.
Yeah.
Um, which is that's something that happens to me a lot, too. Like I can come up with an image and oh, but what were you trying to do? And sometimes it's kind of hard. I've gotten better at it, but sometimes it's hard to put it into words. It's from here, from the heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I sometimes wonder if if art in general sort of went astray when we started to have to attach words to it. Which really, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. It kind of, yeah, that part kind of sucks because I don't know. I feel like I have seen words that I think like, oh, they're good, but then they start like to explain them to me, and then I'm like, I what? I don't know. Is that what it is? Like, I don't see
Hmm.
that, but I thought it was good. Like, how do you determine like if an artwork is successful or not? It's because if can you see the message? If the message is there, it's clear, like right. If what you're trying to say is not, you cannot see it, then is it successful or not, right?
Yeah, and I think that, that sort of reliance on words has a relation to trying to keep art for elite audiences and elite
Right,
people.
right. I have a friend. He's good with words, so he's always like he writes for me. I'm like, hey, what do you think? What are you trying to say? This that. All right, let's put it like this. And wow, it's kind of magical. Like it's hard work to write too. Like I admire them, but but yeah, visual arts to be visual, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think, my brain is sort of formed right now a little bit by, I've just spent some time in Italy doing the big museums there. And so, looking at Michelangelo's and Leonardo da Vinci's and that kind of thing, and that
Yeah,
how they still have this incredibly powerful emotional response to them.
right.
And no one was saying like, "Oh, The Last Judgment is a commentary on Foucault's Panopticon," you know, like, like it was it, they, because of the place that those works of art function in society, like they didn't have any opportunity to be explained. And
Right.
yeah, it's just, anyway, I'm just thinking about that, and then at some point later on in Western history, we decided that everyone needed an artist statement, and every exhibition needed a wall text. And
Right, right.
as a curator,
I
it
was
keeps me in
updating
business,
mine
but
earlier today, and it's such a hard work, at least for me. Like, I was updating my artist statement, my biography. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I sometimes wonder if artists find needing to have artist statements sort of limiting as well, because you get only so much space. You apply for things, you might get 300 words. And to try
Right.
and limit kind of what you're supposedly trying to do
I
or
mean, I
exploring.
don't need it. What I believe is that the people that want to work with me need it. So
Mm.
so okay, I'll do it. But I
Yeah.
don't need it for myself. Like I know what I'm doing for that people, for those people.
Yes.
Like, oh, you want to work with us? So what is your artist thing? Here it
Yes.
is.
And I think now, with like the internet shaping everything we do, Google doesn't understand images. Like you have to have words if
Oh
you want
no!
to get
Right,
a
right,
hit. And so that's
right.
another reason why I think, we have to attach words to things is because in order just to even be found,
Yes,
speaking of
yes,
like what
yes.
makes humans human, right? Like Google does not
Right,
understand
right, right.
art. ChatGPT does not
No, no,
understand art.
it doesn't. It doesn't. Oh, and I have tried it. Like I went through this phase where all right, let's try these image creators AIs. And I spent some time writing prompts and stuff, and the images never I they were never good for me, They're just so you can notice them,
Yeah.
as an art teacher, for example, like I see that a lot with my students because they know how to
Oh,
use them. And then I ask them for a sketch or something. I'm like, is this AI? Like, oh,
yeah.
how do you know? It's just so obvious. Like,
Yeah.
I prefer your work, even though you think you're not a drawing, you're not good at drawing. Like, I prefer that. Like, that's more
Mm.
genuine, more human than the other stuff, which is not human at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I did want to get a chance to ask you about your practice as an art educator. And do you find that that changes your relationship to your own work? And how do you maybe kind of like balance all of that energy that goes into fostering young artists and then also needing to make work yourself?
So when I started being a teacher, I also my daughter was just born as well. So I was like being a dad and being a teacher. And during that time, those like first 3, 4 years of my daughter, I mostly focused on being a teacher and being a father. I wasn't making so much art. I always did, but slowly, It did change me a lot. I realized that I learned a lot about myself teaching and about my process teaching. And all the experience that I had learning art, I put all that into teaching. Like there's not
Mm.
one way, and that's something that I always say to my students. There's not one correct way to make a line. Your line is good, it's okay. It's your line. That's your line. There's not one way to draw an apple or a special technique to draw an apple. You draw it how just how you draw it. Like how do you say that? Like it comes out. That's okay. There's not one way of doing this or a correct way, or this is not math or science. So I always try to break with the artist myth, that we are these very brilliant people, that we have all these brilliant ideas all the time. Actually tell them like, no, we're not. What we are is like we are good researchers, and we know how to study and we put in the work, and that's how we come up with ideas. We go out, we read and stuff, and have experiences, and we practice, and that's how we make good art. In my process, it made me more aware, while I was teaching, like how do I do that? How do I do this? So how do I explain to this little person how to do it too? Is this the correct way? Is it not? Is there a better way? And that's what I learned. There's not one way. There are multiple ways you can go. So I always encourage my students to put in the work, right? Because that's where you explore, and where you find, like, for example, how do you grab the pencil? Something so simple
Yeah.
like that. Like there's not one way. Oh no, but I have seen them. They grab them like from the back and they go like ah ha ha. It's like, yeah, but because it's easier for them. Is it
Mm.
easier for you that way? No, not particularly. Then grab it in a way that you're comfortable, so that you can make the line that you want to make. You know what I mean? So things like that, and they and Also, I have, I'm not teaching artists. Not every kid that comes to my classroom wants to be an artist. So I always have like an appreciation approach, like if I can, I feel like I'm a successful teacher if you leave my class and you appreciate art more, then I did a good job.
As you said, not every student coming through is going to go dedicate their life to art. But what do you feel like students get out of the study, even if they never pick up a pencil again? I mean, I think they must be getting something out of it, yeah?
A good taste, and that works for a lot of things, like develop that taste, man. Yes, of course. Like if you want to be a businessman, then you can decide more about your logos or your
Mm,
graphic designs and stuff for your house, for how you like to dress, right? You like fashion, then develop that taste, like learn about art, learn about
mm.
color theory and stuff like that, like I feel like it's very useful throughout life, like having art skills, you know what I mean? Like you can apply them to so many things. That's how I convince them. That's how I convince them to be interested, in the class.
Coming to understand what goes into a work of art being made is going to increase your appreciation for the rest of your life. So if you understand what it actually takes to draw an apple that looks like an apple, it's
Mhm.
going to change your life. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe that because I mean, at the end of the day, like everything is aesthetic, even technology, right? Like, yeah, that an iPhone, for example, like, yeah, it has like a part that is totally technology, but it's also very aesthetic, no?
Absolutely.
And then there's a design like put into that. Same with everything. So that's how I convinced them, like, oh, you like sneakers? Oh, like the Jordan brand designer is actually an architect. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's
Like that
great.
guy's an artist, right? Look, here it is. Like he's this hippie guy from Oregon, like, and they're all like, oh my God, I don't believe that. That's the guy that designed the Jordans? Yeah, that's the guy. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I just realized we're coming up on our hour recording mark. I know, so soon, but I'd love for you if you have any projects coming up, anything that you where people can find you and follow you, or any like things on the horizon you want people to know about. This would be a great time to make sure we get a chance to say that.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Well, I had an exhibition. It was a group exhibition, but a small one, last week in a gallery here in San Juan called El Kilómetro. They're paintings, though. It's not printmaking. I'm sort of painting more now, and I'm catching up. I'm taking a little bit of a break, but in July I should start working on the next exhibition. I want to do a solo show. I don't have a date for that, but hopefully before the year ends, it will all be done.
Beautiful. Where could people find and follow you so they could see the updates of your work and information about upcoming exhibitions?
So I'm not that good at social medias, but I am on Instagram, and I don't always post. That there could be like stretches of time where like 1 2 months where I don't post anything, but it's because I'm working. But I do try to document everything and put it out there eventually. So yeah, through Instagram.
Great. What is your handle on Instagram?
Oh, it's Javier Moreno with underscore at the beginning and at the end. Javier
Beautiful.
Moreno.
I can put a link to that in the show notes so people
Yes,
can
of
find it
course.
easily. And then, and remind me again, you said you've got Tokis in the background, and who else has joined us on the call?
Coquis y
We can thank them as well
yeah,
for
what is a
adding
grillo?
their
I think a
ambiance.
grillo is a grasshopper.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
it's been really lovely hanging out for an hour and getting to at least virtually visit San Juan again. And I want to say, thank you again for participating in the documentary. And we're really looking forward to sharing more about your work on that platform as well. And thank you for letting me take an hour of your evening.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was awesome to talk about printmaking. Like you don't do that every day.
Totally. Well, I
So
get
I
to,
had a
but
good time.
yeah. If you like today's episode, we have a Patreon where you can help support our podcast and get bonus content like Shop Talk Shorts with past guests. But the very best thing you can do to support this podcast is listen, rate, follow, and share with your fellow print friends around the world. This episode, like all episodes, was written and produced by me, Miranda Metcalf, with music by Joshua Weber. I'll see you in 2 weeks.